all undocumented people with and without DACA, those with criminal records, those that are not youth, those who are recently arriving, those that do not go to school as well. We are here for a collective community as our liberation is bound to each other. And lastly, also ICE must be abolished to bring a full stop to the kidnapping and the separation of families that this country thrives on.
Venezuela is a disaster that still rages on today, and it's really scary to think about going back. A disaster that has claimed the lives of thousands of young people protesting for a better future and the restoration of democracy. To put it simple, I will get killed if I am deported to Venezuela. Those in positions of power and authority do not understand what I'm going through, and they do not understand that this is a life or death situation for me and thousands of others. Since the election in 2016, my life has been consumed by anxiety, uncertainty, and fear. I live in an alternative reality every day. My dream has become a nightmare. I will make sure that nobody ever forgets our faces, because we are real, we are people, we deserve dignity, we are workers, we are students, we are someone. And I hope that if we don't get justice, I know that some of you know what happens if there's no justice. What do? We shut it down. So no justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. Shut it down. If you are all in community today, you will know that today is not any day for DACA recipients, for undocumented folks, for undocumented workers. Today is a day in history, and we are on the right side, and we demand justice, dignity, and respect for all undocumented immigrants, DACA, not DACA, dreamer, not dreamer, and abolish ICE, but also abolish the good and bad immigrant narrative that is dehumanizing our communities as we speak. Thank you.
It's unjust that I've had to mentally and emotionally prepare my 6 and 10-year-old for the possibility of us being separated, because I could potentially be deported at any given time. It is painful that I have to see my children live with such uncertainty. This is much more than just DACA. It's about all undocumented people that deserve to simply live. Stop saying that we deserve to stay here because we contribute to the economy. We deserve to be seen as much more than just being profitable to this capitalist country. We shouldn't have to prove our humanity to anyone. Finally, to all allies and citizens, do better. Stop assuming you know what our communities need, and stop assuming and learn to listen and actually listen to our needs without taking up space. Take responsibility and keep yourselves informed. Don't expect us to constantly be doing the work for you. I want to make it clear that we do not need saviors. We need accomplices that are willing to use their privileges and to put their bodies on the line for all of us without expecting a pat in the back. Power to the people.
We continue to hold this narrative against us and each other, that somehow by holding the line, by doing what this country asks from us, by being the supermodel immigrant person, that we won't be in the priorities of the deportation, but the reality is otherwise. 50% of the people who are being detained were not in the target list of ICE, and it still ended up at the Tacoma Detention Center. And so today, we organize in solidarity with every single person at the Tacoma Detention Center to demand the shutdown of the Northwest Tacoma Detention Center.
Taking Senate offices, taking House representatives, and demanding that change happens. And with that, there was hope. Our DACA students gave us hope that there was a path forward. And so to have the Supreme Court consider this decision before them today, it is about what future will we have for this democracy? Who belongs? And what we know is that it's families that belong together. And here in this Washington, regardless of what happens in that other Washington, we know that families belong together.
Yeah, to take action and to keep fighting to bring about a more permanent solution to all these people, to all these communities within our societies and the nation. For them and for the people close to them who created the backbone and the foundation for this nation to rise upon. DACA isn't enough. We are strong and we need to fight for more. And to do this, we need to break the master narrative as our first step to freedom. We are not here to remain silent to the master narrative of the so-called American dream. We are the American dream. We are America. To conclude, I would like to end with a lesson which I've learned through looking at my parents and their hard work. These injustices didn't happen in one day. They occurred over time. It will take time to change them. During the fight toward this change, you may lose hope. Don't. Look around to you, to your community, your now familia, and admire their resistance which continues to hold strong. Keep fighting and remember that the way you fight in this world is important and that we don't all have to think or act in the same way to get to the same world. Thank you.
It is our duty to fight for freedom.
It is our duty to fight for freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love each other and support each other.
We must love each other and support each other.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
Eternally grateful to the young people years before me who fought tirelessly for DACA. Today, it's in our hands to inform the conversation about what DACA is and why it must stay. So first, let's make one thing clear. DACA does not mean worthy. It does not mean more worthy, more hardworking, more integrated, or more American. I am as American and as undocumented as our parents. I'm as worthy as every person of existing in peace. I am as hardworking as everyone else and deserve the right to keep working. Without DACA, the reality is harsh for me, but frankly, it would be a step backward for America to choose bigotry over its people's voices, to continue with the culture of exclusion that would be the greatest harm. Rest assured, it won't go without a fight for access, a fight for peace, and a fight for liberation. We are all worthy. The arbitrary requirements for DACA do not reflect any inherent value in our beings, and today we ought not only to remember, but amplify the voices of those who aren't eligible for DACA. Because they too deserve what I deserve. They too have fought, they too have worked and struggled for our community's well-being. Furthermore, this administration has simply neglected that migration is a human right, and whether immigrants come to America to shine and to exceed standards, all immigrants deserve the right to move and live freely. No immigrant should be refused at the border for, quote unquote, a lack of merit. Finally, I want to finish by just acknowledging the Native people of this land and the Duwamish tribe, which today hold witness to the fight for America. Because throughout time, we have all come together and benefited from the stolen land of Indigenous people, and we're grateful for the Duwamish. Together, we overcome fear. In community, I have learned what it means to be unafraid. It's to be on the stage. It's to say, I am undocumented and here to stay. It's to say, I am worthy in the face of adversity.
This administration's move to terminate DACA and strip work authorization away from 800,000 productive members of our society is cruel and wrong. As court deliberations start today, the WSLC and our affiliates are on record to say, ending DACA will increase the pool of vulnerable workers in our country and embolden employers to retaliate against working men and women who dare to organize on their job or speak out against abusive worker conditions. This indefensible act will make our workplaces less fair and less safe and will undermine our freedom to join together and fight to raise wages and standards. The direct attack on union members and union values only strengthens our resolve to overcome racial divisions and demand changes to a system rigged to benefit the wealthiest and corporations. The eyes of history are upon us, and the labor movement stands with you all, you young, brave workers, and we will fight for legislation so that the contributions you make are celebrated rather than assaulted.
And so one of the things that we want to make sure is that people don't give up hope. And to make sure that people understand what is actually happening, because the court heard arguments today, and it's always very hard to know what's going to happen with a case. This is definitely going to be a tough road because obviously we're dealing with a very conservative Supreme Court, and they've been wanting to give the president a lot of leeway in what he wants to do. And let's not make sure that we forget who's doing this. It's President Trump who's trying to get rid of DACA. And so he's ultimately responsible for this decision. If the Supreme Court allows him to go forward, that may happen, but that won't happen until the spring or June of next year. And so one of the messages that we want to make sure that DACA recipients understand is that the program is still alive today, and that if you have had DACA or you have DACA now, you can still renew, and we're encouraging people to renew. And if you have questions because you're unsure, or there's something that's happened since you last renewed, we want to make sure that people know that there are resources, there's help available. Certainly our offices are available. If people want to know how to get help, nwirp.org is the website. We have clinics available for people throughout the state to get assistance. So don't be discouraged by the message today. We want to make sure that people continue renewing their work permits, because that's going to put them in a better position if we do have a bad ruling from the Supreme Court. So our primary message is for people not to give up hope, not to listen to the headlines from today, and to say, I'm not going to renew because what's the point? There are important reasons why renewing is important. We think that the work permits will continue to be valid even if there is a bad Supreme Court ruling, and that will provide people protection for an extended period of time, while all the rest of us fight very hard to make sure that DACA recipients in the Supreme Court allows the administration to take away DACA. We fight very hard to make sure that they are ultimately protected. So that's one of the key messages that we want to send.
We know that dreamers, that DACA recipients, their families are real and true Americans, and they belong here just like you and I. We have to continue this fight, and we know that right now the backstop is the court of law. But at the end of the day, the real backstop is us, the people who demand that our representatives in Washington, D.C. stand up and finally take legislative action to provide permanent relief for all immigrants in our country whose status is to continue to be in the shadows. And we can do better. We can do better here in Seattle. We can do better across the country. I am proud to be a leader on this issue on the Seattle City Council. After Trump was elected, I fought to create a legal defense fund to the tune of $2 million to provide legal defense to those at risk of deportation. In our budget this year, I have fought to create a resilience fund for immigrants and refugees, $375,000 to invest directly in our own communities to make sure we continue to be empowered, that we control our destiny and our future, and that we can continue to build on our own collective community power to do what we need to do for our community. And we've also fought for additional funding for DACA recipients and their legal representation. We are proud to continue to be a welcoming city in the city of Seattle, and we will not stop. We will make sure that this continues to be a priority in our federal lobbying agenda, in our state lobbying agenda, because we will always, always rise to the occasion and stand with DACA recipients and their families.
My mother is somebody, and she deserves full equality, right here, right now. My father is somebody, and he deserves full equality, right here, right now, right here in front of the United States District Court, right now.
Our faith values command us to do good to strangers as an act of righteousness, an act of faith. Moses, Mary, Jesus, and Muhammad, peace be upon them all, they were all refugees, migrants for a reason, to teach us as human beings to care
care for each other, to care for those seeking refuge, and to fulfill the sacred teachings of welcoming the stranger. Rescinding DACA would have drastic consequences, including mass-scale separation of families, severe individual trauma, and irreparable social and public harm. So Congress needs to act now and not wait for the Supreme Court ruling. The safety and security and the fate and future of young adults like Graciela, like Maria, like Tommy, they should never be in the hands of non-partisan justices in the first place. They are not a bargaining chip. And I don't want to hear that comprehensive immigration reform is too complicated or is too difficult. It's not that it's too difficult, it's that the affected people are too dark. Let's be real here. Regardless of what the Supreme Court decides, we will continue to build our movement. We will continue to love and protect each other, to value the lives and contributions of DACA recipients and all immigrants, documented or not. And eventually, I know that our movement will win.
Somebody is hurting my people, and it's gone on far too long. And it's gone on far too long. And it's gone on far too long. Oh, somebody is hurting my people, and it's gone on far too long. And we won't be silent anymore. One more time, somebody is hurting my people, and it's gone on far too long. I know that it's gone on. I know that it's gone on. Oh, somebody is hurting my people, and it's gone on far too long. And we won't be silent anymore.